About traditional medical model, we know it's the McDonald's medicine. You get your insurance card, put you in a box and say, here's your drug. Pretty much once you get put on a medication, you're on that forever. I used to be disabled. I had psoriatic arthritis. I couldn't use my hands anymore. I had psoriasis all over my skin. I was, scabs and scales everywhere. You go like this and the skin would just fall down. That's why I became a doctor.
They estimate yearly increase in the overall worldwide incidence of autoimmune disease at 19.1%.
When we talk about somewhere around 49.5% of the entire population have at least one chronic disease, I would say the vast majority of that is autoimmune. Testing, I think, is integral to anyone getting better. I mean, we have a little under 98.2% chance of having our patients off of all medication and all their autoimmunity gone. But the other thing a lot of people don't realize, the biggest one and the most studied thing that feeds cancer cells is...
Hello and welcome back to the Vibrant Wellness Podcast. I'm Dr. Emmy Brown here with the brilliant Melissa Gentile. Today we are so pleased to welcome Dr. Jay Goodbinder. Dr. Goodbinder is a chiropractic physician and functional medicine practitioner. He is the founder of the Epigenetics Healing Center, where he specializes in epigenetic science to help you not express disease and be able to function at your best with functional medicine therapies, epigenetics, nutritional counseling, and lifestyle counseling. He is also an advocate for detoxification and hormone balancing to restore optimal health. If that wasn't enough, Dr. Goodbinder is also the author of the Amazon best-selling book, Defending Your Life, and has helped thousands of people all over the world fulfill their potential and realize their purpose in life. A well-rounded, holistic provider to be sure, Dr. Goodbinder's clients report higher functioning in all areas of their lives after working with him. We're so pleased to welcome Dr. Goodbinder. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Super excited.
Yes, so are we. Okay, so before we jump into our topic of the day, which is autoimmune disease, getting to the root cause, using diet and lifestyle, and I'm sure you have some other management therapies and options beyond kind of the conventional medications, I'd love to know, why do you care so much? Why should our audience care so much about getting to the root cause of autoimmune disease?
Well, I mean, when we talk about traditional medical model, we know it's the McDonald's medicine. So when you take you get your insurance card pays for just enough testing to figure out what you have, put you in a box and say, here's your drug. And we know that other than steroids and antibiotics, pretty much once you get put on a medication, you're on that forever. There's no ever getting off, whether it's thyroid meds, blood pressure meds, cholesterol, rheumatoid arthritis, colitis, Crohn's disease, hidradus suppurativa, whatever it is, you're on meds the rest of your life. And insurance makes a lot more money if you're sick than if you're healthy. So you will maintain those medications forever, and you'll get more diagnosis until the last 15% of your life, according to the Institute of Health Metrics. You spend the last 15% of your life in a nursing home or a hospital bed while they take every penny you've ever made. People think they're saving money by paying a copay and spending 7 minutes with a doctor on average for a $300 consultation to do that every 3 months the rest of their lives. It's a horrible investment. It's not an investment, it's a cost. And to seek out someone who's really trying to get to the root cause and will actually spend time with you. And you do have to invest in, well, you're not getting the McDonald's medicine anymore. You're getting Ruth Chris. You're getting what you want.
Straight into the point.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. And I think more and more of us are hearing about autoimmune disease becoming more prevalent. I just read a study wherein they estimate yearly increase in the overall worldwide incidence of autoimmune disease at 19.1%. That's staggering. And so when we talk about this often, but why do you think it's becoming more prevalent? We talk often about toxins, but what's kind of your take on that? Are there specifics? Yeah. Are there, is there a lot more stress? What can you say about that?
You said like 19.1%, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's real interesting, actually. And when I presented at NASDAQ, I talked about the amount of dollars that go towards chronic disease in the world, or in the United States. I'm sorry, in the United States, and it's like 17.8 cents of every dollar go towards disease in this country. Goes towards healthcare.
Wow.
17.8 cents. That means you're not getting your camper and going out camping with the family. You're not going on vacation. You're not getting your healthy foods. You're not doing this. You're literally saying, I have to go to the hospital. I have to use my medications. I have to get my surgery. 17.8 cents, I believe. With that 17.8 cents, 90% of that is chronic disease. Now, when you say the percentage you used for autoimmune, I would venture to guess it's much higher than that. We're just not classifying things appropriately. So pretty much any chronic disease is going to have an autoimmune component. And when we talk about somewhere around 49.5% of the entire population have at least one chronic disease, I would say the vast majority of that is autoimmune.
And I will say this is a yearly increase of 19.1%.
Oh, got it. So that's just, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that, honestly, in my opinion, yeah, we have toxins, we have pollutants and things of that nature, and that's true. But I think that the biggest problem we run into is the further we go down this road of glamorizing McDonald's as our form of healthcare, glamorizing the hospitals, glamorizing the traditional doctor's offices who literally just give you a medication and never figure out why you're sick. We don't ever take care of a problem. We're so quick to, and by the way, I think the best invention ever in medicine was antibiotics. I think they're the best invention ever in medicine. I think it saved more lives than anything. Obviously way overprescribed, obviously have a very deleterious effect on your microbiome. And with all the studies on the microbiome, knowing that it directly affects the way you absorb, utilize nutrition, and create an immune response, it's directly causing autoimmunity. And that's just what it's doing. So in addition to people not eating right and being too busy and on your phone scrolling all day, and I don't have time, I'm going to stop off at whatever fast food chain and get it. And get whatever toxic pollutants. And, you're familiar with biotoxins and their effect on the immune system. So when you say biotoxins, we're talking about not just sprays, pesticides, perchlorate, the glyphosates, the DDTs of the world. Those are biotoxins. You have your mycotoxins, like your molds. You have your heavy metals. You have Lyme disease acts like a biotoxin. It's actually very interesting. Lyme, you guys are familiar with Plum Island Animal Research Hospital, I assume, and they go, hey, you don't? Okay, Melissa, got you.
I don't. Let's explain.
So Lyme disease has existed for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
Lyme disease was weaponized at Plum Island Animal Research Hospital, where they were creating vector-borne bioweapons and putting them into ticks to see, if they could use that to basically attack people. And they were doing that in the 1960s, which is similar to what they did with COVID. COVID's a virus, transmits even easier. Vector-borne illness, they put it in ticks. They dropped it in old Lyme, Connecticut, where sure enough, we got Lyme disease.
Oh, is that where the name comes? Okay,
that's
where the name come from. Okay,
and so what happened is they really quickly found out they couldn't control the spread of that vector, and now we have this Lyme disease all over the country, which can pass the blood-brain barrier, that can be passed on in utero, that can be sexually transmitted. And so we're ending up with lots of this infectious disease, and every infectious disease that we can get, viral, bacterial, spirochete, fungal infections, parasitic infections, they all raise the inflammatory cytokine cascades, whether it's interleukin 6, interleukin 12, tumor necrosis factor alpha, interleukin 17A, interleukin 23. All of those are those are all inflammatory cytokines. And what do our pharmaceutical companies attack? What are they going after? They're literally shutting off your inflammatory cytokine cascades. So they go, oh, no, you're going to feel better. But just so you know, you'll be on this drug forever. And now that infection can replicate unchecked all over your body, and you will be sick forever. You want to grow autoimmune disease? Start them young. Whatever they get sick with, make sure you damage it. Now, I don't think this is a big, conspiracy of we're going to make everyone sick in the world, and it's, government spirit to make everyone sick. But I think from a profit margin standpoint, any drug you take, it never takes care of the problem. And I don't know how we jumped into Lyme's real quick. I guess I just jumped into Lyme. Who knows where that came from? But that's okay. So
autoimmune disease increasing.
Autoimmune disease. So we talk about, what is the gold standard for Lyme? If you go to a doctor and they find out you have Lyme, what do they give you?
DABCI.
Antibiotics, yeah.
100% of the time, and I have the literature to show it. I posted it at some point in the last year. 100% of the time, doxycycline does not work. It allows for persister cells, and within 6 months to a year, you have some other kind of chronic disease. And they go, well, we know it's not Lyme. We already treated for that. I know I don't have Lyme. It's this, this, and this. No, you allowed for persister cells. It can't knock out the persister cells. And so it replicates and replicates until you have, oh my gosh, I have Parkinson's disease. Oh my gosh, I have rheumatoid arthritis, colitis, Crohn's disease. I have these things that are being stimulated because our cytokine cascades are going to mark an infectious disease, and we're not winning. So it keeps going higher and higher and higher. And then epigenetically, we express, hey, here's our RA. Here's our lupus. Here's our diabetes, because there's an infectious etiology to diabetes as well. So it just keeps growing. Chronic disease, autoimmunity is going to go wild, not just because of Lyme. There's lots of things. But the point of regular medicine is you have a symptom, I'm going to stop it. It's always muting your immune response. If we really wanted to help people, we'd say, why is your immune response lifted? And then support that function so we knock out the root cause, and then you get to come off all medication.
So going off of that is when someone develops an autoimmune disease, you're saying there's always a biotoxin at the root of it. And with this autoimmune activity, is this our immune system like overperforming, underperforming? What exactly is going on?
So almost all autoimmunity is multifactorial, and doesn't always have a biotoxin. I can test people to kingdom come. Some aren't going to have a biotoxin, but they will have some kind of chronic virus in their cell. They will have some irregularity in the microbiome that's stimulated by overgrowth of Clostridia or overgrowth of Salmonella. Or I just delivered labs to somebody today who actually, they had to be reported because they had true C. diff and true Salmonella. So they got reported to their health department, but neither here nor there, not through me, but through the lab. Neither here nor there. There's always something. There's a reason the body is actually attacking and increasing those inflammatory cytokine cascades. And again, the only reason I'm chasing that is because I used to be disabled. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that. I had psoriatic arthritis. I couldn't use my hands anymore. Had psoriasis all over my skin. I was, scabs and scales everywhere. You go like this and the skin would just fall down. That's why I became a doctor in the first place. And then obviously they don't teach you that in chiropractic school, how to take care of those things. So I went on to become a chiropractic internist and spent an extra 3 years in the functional endocrinology, immunology, biochem, physiology, and got the board certification. But I mean, the whole thing is I was super inflamed. I had these problems, right? And I was told by a doctor, I'm sorry, you're unlucky. It's genetic. You learn how to live with it. I actually did have a vector-borne illness. I found that out later, my own testing. And I'm not on I was on 6 meds at 23. I'm on no meds anymore. I feel great. But it's not always a biotoxin. There's lots of different things that can stimulate that inflammatory cytokine cascade. And there's anti-cytokines that control it. They just get imbalanced when you're trying to fight something. But once you kill that thing, the cytokines come back out and they control the inflammatory ones. Just the way it works. Is that what we're talking about? I don't know, but I'm excited.
Yes. I'm like digesting. I'm like, okay.
Letting it marinate a bit.
Here. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like polypharmacy, using antibiotics when maybe they're not indicated or maybe they're not the most effective therapy, maybe when the risk outweighs the benefit, is a large contributing factor to increasing incidence of autoimmune.
Sure. I mean, my first 3 questions I ask every patient. Were you a vaginal delivery? Were you breastfed for a year? Did you take a lot of antibiotics early in life? And if you get the trifecta of terrible, is what I call it, they've got serious autoimmune disease. It's always. So you go, wait a second, what if I had to have a C-section? Well, you do the vaginal swab. You put the Q-tip in the vagina, you go right in the baby's nose, mouth, and ears. Let's start repopulating you there instead of giving you whatever is populating the hospital that day. Because sick people in the hospital.
I've never heard of that approach.
Yeah, so a lot of doctors won't do it, so they fight it. And you go, wait a second, why are you fighting this? Like, I'm asking you, no, we don't do that. Like, well,
do midwives advocate for that? I'm wondering, I'm just curious about the origin of that approach, and it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Where did you learn of that?
Probably, I did a year of epigenetics research. I'm assuming I learned it there. But one thing that we do in case they won't allow you to do it, before you even go to the hospital, the day when you're laboring at home, before you go, you want to labor at home as long as you can, obviously. You go to the hospital, they're already pushing for C-sections and epidurals and everything else. It's definitely not going to be natural. I delivered both my babies barehanded at a hospital. I was like, no one gets in the room. I do. Like,
I love that.
Technically, my wife delivered the first one because she went crazy because I was trying to pull the baby's head and I didn't want to like rip his head off, my first kid. And so I'm going like this and the vernix is all over the place. I'm like, I can't hold it. And my wife sits up, grabs baby and yanks him out.
And this was at the hospital, you said?
Yeah, at the hospital.
Wow. I can only imagine what the medical staff.
Right. Well, no one was allowed in except our midwife who had hospital privileges and our doula and me. That's all that was allowed to do. Yeah.
So I imagine, the midwives and the doulas are advocating for this if there needs to be a C-section, last resort.
Yeah. But then what you do is if you can't do all that, you have your doctor, your OBGYN, you always put the vaginal swab in before you leave for the hospital and put it in the freezer. Then when you get home, you unfreeze it, put it in baby's mouth, nose, and ears, and you're good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gonna save that tip.
It's something I never thought about. And we talk about C-section births all the time and downstream effects on the microbiome. And I think
Do you
that's
know
very
about,
that's like the biggest pearl of the day so far.
Yeah.
with a C-section versus vaginal birth, you have a proclivity towards on a vaginal birth, you have more staph. Nope, you have more lactobacillus, bifido, and bacteroides. And if you're a C-section, you have more staph, strep, and clostridia. At about 6 months, that normalizes somewhat as long as you're breastfeeding. But if you don't breastfeed, you just have a really bad bacterial complex of inflammation going to be happening systemically.
And I
So
saw a paper early onset colorectal cancer in C-section born females in particular.
Right. Oh, yeah. So that's really interesting. I would say that when we get back into the biotoxins, we're talking about biotoxins creating issues. So, and just so you know, I'm an open book. I don't care. So I think the COVID vaccine was a travesty because, and I'm actually speaking, I think, in Arizona here in a couple months on that. But so when we talk about biotoxins, the biggest problem with it is it stimulates adaptive immunity, and it's on like a switch. So your adaptive comes up and your innate goes down. What does innate do? It looks for something irregular and it blows it up. It's not specific. It just goes, that cell over there, it looks just a little funny. Let's blow it up. So it blows up the cell. If you become hyper adaptive, you no longer have the ability to say, that just looks funny. You're blind. What you have is a whole bunch of specific things. I have my immunoglobulins, I have my lymphocytes, and they're all stimulated at a high level to be very specified in what they're attacking. But if you have something weird in the cell, you'll become more and more and more adaptive. You can't see it. And that thing can just keep reproducing whatever bad stuff it is. What's an irregular cell? Well, you form a lot of those, you get cancer.
Yeah.
Right? And so we're talking about between the whole issue of, well, I wasn't a vaginal delivery, so therefore I have irregular bacteria in my gut. Well, at that point in time, what happens? Let's say you have more permeability, you have more inflammation. That's going to go through your portal vein. Your portal vein, it's going to shoot that up to the liver. The liver is going to be more specifically trying to attack infectious disease because you have bad bacteria there. You have permeability. You're now fighting foods. You're fighting bacteria. You're fighting fungals that are all in your gut normally, but now you're pushing them to the portal vein where they shouldn't go. Your liver's having to deal with that. Well, guess what? We're all exposed to toxins and pollutants every day. Well, your liver is one of the things that's going to help control the metabolism around there, your cytochrome P450 pathways, your glucuronidation, all of your methylation, everything that's happening there, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, go out through the liver, through the gallbladder, secreting bile salt. You neutralize your stomach acids because you don't want to burn your intestine with your stomach acid. You emulsify your fat, all that type of stuff, and you're helping to get rid of all those fat soluble down to water soluble, now to push out. And what happens? Well, you emulsify your fats, you continue your digestion, everything is great. But a lot of people are getting their gallbladders removed. A lot of people are swilling booze nonstop, so they can't use it that way. They have the permeability that way. And then we have, oh, wow, I'm super adaptive. I don't know why. I guess I'm just not detoxifying things. I have crazy levels of toxins and molds. But part of that is your liver never worked right in the first place because you had permeability in your gut lining, and you've now taken your liver off its, actually, the liver's main responsibility is not detoxification. It's actually deamination of proteins. It takes proteins apart. So really interesting that, and then we're going to carnivore diets. Don't get me started on carnivore. Everyone loves carnivores.
Wait, let's get started on carnivore diet. I have to hear this.
Let's get
real quick.
Try things.
Please.
So especially you're doing epigenetics research, and it was very clear that people that eat a ton of fruits and vegetables and a little bit of meat every day, and you cut out everything else, you're going to be relatively free of chronic disease. But when you are taking in tons and tons of protein, your liver has to respond to that, and it has to break it down. And you better sure as heck have all of your stomach acid in place, because if you don't, that's when you end up with gallbladder stasis. Because when that stomach acid, you create your bolus of food from chewing, and your stomach acid comes in, create your bolus, goes into the duodenum. Now your liver's trying to clean itself and go, okay, I can clean myself better now. I can go through the gallbladder. I can secrete all my bile salts. I can neutralize that. I can emulsify those fats. It's all great. If you're bringing a bunch of food in and there's no stomach acid, your gut's been damaged. You've damaged your parietal cells. You can't make the stomach acid anymore because who knows, whatever infectious disease, your staph, your strep, your clostridia, whatever it is from your C-section, or you've taken a lot of antibiotics, or you weren't breastfed for a year, all of those type of things, well, you're more likely to be inflammatory to the parietal cells. You won't make the stomach acid. When the meat comes down, well, now your gallbladder kind of leaks a little bit out because of the cholecystokinin, but it's not fully contracting because you're not getting the full signal. Well, now you got stasis. Now you lose your gallbladder. Now you can't do any of that, and you got more disease coming. So all these things play with each other. But no,
this is a lot.
It's too protein heavy. You know what? I shot a thing the other day. It's like, you really want a really perfect, anti-cancer diet.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying I'm curing cancer here, just saying that this should be very helpful. Now, there's two things that really feed cancer. You guys familiar with at least one of them? What's the one thing that everyone says feeds cancer?
I mean, one of my guesses is mTOR. I don't know if this is relevant with
Sugar.
protein.
Sugar. Thank you for mTOR, but no, we went easier, we went sugar. So
Okay.
so sugar. But the other thing a lot of people don't realize, the biggest one and the most studied thing that feeds cancer cells is methionine. Because that's where you get your SAMine, you start doing the cellular replication and things like that. So it is an essential amino acid, methionine is. You have to have it.
Mm-hmm.
But theoretically, if you were to shut out all sugar, cut out most protein, and do a really high-fat diet with a lot of green vegetables and all the detoxification vegetables, no sugar at all, super high fat. We're talking 90% fat, maybe 9% protein, and just the smallest amount of carbohydrate. You're starving cancer cells. You'll still get some methionine, so you'll be able to still thrive, but cancer cells are almost 100% dependent on methionine. So when you cut that down, yeah, you'll struggle a little bit, but those cancer cells will struggle more.
So when you say cut out sugar with this approach, are you talking about like fruit sugars as well?
If you have, in my opinion, if you have a cancer diagnosis, you would cut out even fruit. I love fruit, vegetables, and meat. That's the diet, right? Tons of fruits and vegetables, a little bit of meat every day. That's for the healthiest person in the world. In the case of, hey, I have irregular cells that are dividing in my body right now, why wouldn't you cut out all the things that they would feed on? Just makes sense. And then you can use all your nutraceuticals that send them through cellular apoptosis, or do the detoxification method and get rid of all of your, we have some really neat IVs here that I've had custom made for us that are extraordinary. I mean, like extraordinary. I'm not going to get into it. But here's the deal.
I want to get into it. I'm like that one up to now.
So the point is that you got to get rid of the adaptive part of the immune system and stimulate the innate, right? Because if you have all those biotoxins and you're adaptive, again, you can't see the irregular cell. You're very specific on what you're targeting. You're creating specific things to antigens. You can't see it. So the only way to really do this is you can control the dietary stuff, suck up all their nutrients, get rid of the biotoxins, make sure the liver's cleaned up so all the biotoxins are gone. And it's not just the liver being cleaned, it's your liver is being sped up on its ability to detoxify. Because is the liver really storing all this stuff? Probably not. It's more of, hey, let's just get this thing going and get it out. So you do that, you get rid of the biotoxins, and then you try to stimulate innate immunity. One way to do that, just this one I will share, is all those mushroom type supplements, all the, like, turkey tail mushrooms, really well studied for breast cancer. All it's doing is stimulating innate immunity. But all your mushrooms really do that. Even white button mushrooms show an increase in cytotoxic T
Cheapest
cells.
one at the grocery store.
Right. But that doesn't sell well in nutraceuticals. So we have to use turkey tail and reishi and cordyceps, all those type of things.
Lion's mane.
Right, lion's mane. Oh,
very
wait, hold on. Let me just show you my newest. I had somebody give this to me, and the mushrooms are great. But here is a reishi, and here, this is somebody who just brought this to me today. And lion's mane. I've never used them with patients, but I just think it's funny. It's like mushrooms are the thing. I like mushrooms. I do. Matter of fact, we sell some supplements with mushrooms. You could just eat mushrooms. Correct.
Just eat them. Yeah.
Question is, I'm going to ask you this to you, Dr. Emmy. Would you eat them raw or cooked?
I always thought eating raw mushrooms was bizarre. When you go to maybe like the cheapest, I don't know, buffet, I can only remember from my childhood having exposure to this
they're
sort
all
of
like
thing.
sliced
Or
up and
raw.
raw, right? Yeah.
Or like on a cruise. I went on one cruise. I'm not a cruise person. I don't know.
Right.
It seems bizarre to me. I always cook them, but I imagine you're going to say eat them raw. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I was actually asking you. That wasn't even rhetorical. That was like, I don't know, because I don't do that. But I would say this, like, I understand that you can actually get sick from eating raw mushrooms. I'm not sure, but when you cook them, you're going to lose some of their abilities to actually stimulate innate immunity.
Sure. So there's a time and a place for the supplement that's properly prepared, and hopefully it is safe and in that smaller dosage. As opposed to
I might have to. I need to figure out what the actual. I need to figure out what the actual active ingredient is that stimulates it. Oh my gosh, knock this down! I got my director of operations over there. We need to call the pharmacy and see if we can have compounded. I'll look into this. Let's do this a note. I'm going to look into what is in the turkey tail mushroom and what is in mushrooms that stimulates innate immunity. We're going to have it purified. We're going to do it intravenous, and that's the next thing we're doing.
Wow.
When you
Bam.
got that done, send us an email.
Light
Yeah, right?
bulb moment.
Yeah.
We're always
On the
talking,
pod.
there's always something. Well, right now,
Mhm.
what was the most recent thing you said they were struggling with that I wanted? Lutein for prostate cancer patients. Be like, can we actually purify that and have it intravenously done?
Interesting.
Mm.
Before we move on, Dr. Goodbinder, I want to go back to methionine and touch on, is this related to hypermethylation? When you spoke to methionine stimulating cancer, because there's a conversation about hypermethylation when we're taking such huge doses of B vitamins.
Yes.
We're taking tons of folate and tons of B12.
Mm-hmm.
And I've read there's a drawback to that. There's research that too much methylation can contribute to silencing or inhibiting tumor suppressor genes.
Yep.
What do you think about that?
Well, I'm real careful with it when someone does have cancer. I don't think methionine or SAMe on its own or all the methylation on its own is going to cause cancer.
Right.
I think that the issue is, it's like the same thing I was saying with the dietary stuff. Lots of fruits and lots of vegetables and lots of and a little bit of meat every day, super healthy thing. When you have specific pathology that you're directly treating, then there's nuance. Okay, I still want to sit within those food groups, but where are we at? What are we going to do? And so, with that being said, typically, if somebody they have a high 2-oxoformethylbutyric acid, a high uracil, a high thiamine, where they're damaging DNA and maybe not rewriting their DNA appropriately, then yeah, we should use high levels of methylfolate in that case. If we see that, hey, we have a high serum B12. Do you know what it means when you see a high serum B12 and a high methylmalonic acid? It's a transcobalamin genetic variant. They can't get the B12 into it, so methylation does nothing. You have to use adenosylcobalamin to get it in. Or some hydroxyl will convert to adenosine, but methyl cannot convert to adenosine. I'm having trouble finding that at a compounding pharmacy as well. I want to get that IV, but no one has it. They either have hydroxyl or methyl. I use them both. But if someone's got a transcobalamin, they get the hydroxyl.
There's nuance, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's the art to it.
It's an art, right? So you're like, I want everyone to be healthy. I want everyone to eat this way. I want everyone, I think, according to the year of epigenetics research, everyone in the world needs fish oil, probiotic, vitamin D every day. Whether you're healthy, sick, not, that's what you take.
I love that. That's very concise and to the point when you can give me a bullet pointed list.
Right.
And I agree. Because we don't do those things.
That's, wow. Glad I brought the water. I knew it was going to happen. Only a matter of time. I get excited and then, woo! Okay. Could be a tick. Who knows? Maybe this is obviously a tick. So I created a couple of supplements. I have a supplement line called LifeSupportHP.com. Or Life Support Health Products. But the point of it was to make it so that doctors could focus specifically on treating your nuance versus trying to hit all the baseline stuff. So with that, we have high dosed 7,500 IU of vitamin D, 120 micrograms of MK7, K2. You have all your high dose methylated chelated nutrients, L-theanine to balance it out, to calm it down and if people get too hyped. You have the only gut stable form of superoxide dismutase in the world, a proprietary blend that we have in there. You have NAC, you have acetyl L-carnitine to hit all the mitochondria. You have all these things that you kind of spore form bacteria at 4 billion. And so you're getting everything that you would normally want to give a patient in 1 scoop a day, and then you can deal with the nuance more strongly because everyone kind of needs their baseline stuff. And people don't like taking 6 billion pills.
And you would say this powder is kind of for everybody, not just autoimmune patients,
you
but
can give
just
it
your
to
average
pregnant people, nursing people. You can give it to kids under 40 pounds. We like to give them a half scoop.
Okay.
I wouldn't give it to infants below 1 year old. Let them have breast milk, please, and real food. But once we get into, hey, let's optimize every system of your body and give you a chance to, hey, I can't afford all the testing. Testing, I think, is integral to anyone getting better. We have a little under 98.2% chance of having our patients off of all medication and all their autoimmunity gone within 8 months. That's consistent across our practice. We keep stats. It's great.
It's beautiful.
It's wonderful. And once they're done with everything, you say, stay on, we call it Omni Support because it kind of helps everything. It's on lifesupporthp.com, but it's called Omni Support. Just 1 scoop a day, you're good. And people say, I feel euphoric. I feel amazing.
Wow.
And then you do fish oil as well. Because you can do a powdered fish oil, you just don't absorb it. So what's the point? Either you're going to do a high-end product or you're not. So I did everything, the highest end thing that exists in the world, all at high doses. That makes sense. So you don't have to individually supplement those things.
Sounds
then
like a
you
very
need a real doctor.
thoughtful formula.
Well, I also thought, like, if I'm going to make something, I want my kids to be able to have it. I want my wife to have it. I want everyone to be safe. I don't want to worry about anything. So
When it comes
I
to
spared no expense. Go ahead.
when it comes to that the fish oil, do you make a fish oil as well? Because I know there's like some concern with rancid
Yeah. There's good
oils.
fishing is out there. I agree with you. I think you chew them. You go, hey, I got a pill of fish oil. Let me bite it. Okay. It tastes awful. My tongue went numb. This isn't good.
Okay.
I did that for my parents when they were getting Costco fish oil. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Oh
Taste
no!
test.
Did you have them taste it?
No, I was like, you can't. I had them try to smell my breath. I was like, smell this. And breathing out of it was horrible. But it's funny. It's sad. My parents are older. My dad is now passed. My mom's still around, and she goes and buys the same thing. Like, it's the same thing. I already told her, don't do this. I just did this. It's horrible. Well, it's a lot cheaper.
Right.
You're paying to hurt yourself. Stop it. It's way more expensive.
In the
You're
long
like,
run, absolutely.
You pay $20 for a roll of toilet paper. You just wasted a lot of money. You pay $10 for a bad fish oil. You pay $10 to harm yourself. Spend the $50, get good fish oil, and be done.
So what are parameters for a good fish oil?
Glad you asked.
Finder.
I'm very specific about all my stuff. So I will only use a true triglyceride fish oil that has been refined down and everything's been taken out of it. I don't use an ethyl ester. As they blow the molecule apart, it decreases absorption significantly. There's decent ones. There's re-esterified ones, like Nordic Naturals does a re-esterified. It's better than ethyl ester, but it's still not a true triglyceride, which is, you have a glycerol backbone, you have your EPA, your DHA, and then the other omega-3s. It's like an E, as I see in my head. But basically, when you do the ethyl ester, they're just like, blow everything apart. Get rid of the glycerol. Get rid of this. You have DHA and EPA in a pill. Go. And you're like, I absorb nothing. And they can clean that up. It's really cheap to clean it. It's molecular distillation. Great. You made it so it's non-absorbable, but it's clean. If you get something that is a true triglyceride and refined, great. You've refined it out. You've got all the bad stuff out. You spent more money to do it. It's more expensive. Great. You did the right thing. And don't get me started on the pink stuff. You know what I'm talking about? The red, omega red, krill oil. Don't get me started. Oh, it does have that in it. It does have that in it.
I think that's what makes it
the
red.
krill oil goes what like people are trying to do. Like, krill is so much better than fish oil. You heard that?
I have heard that.
Okay. Are you a whale? Because you don't eat krill. And to be very clear, that was just my first thought. It's just like, what do humans do? Well, it's not a human thing to do to eat krill. So let's look at the actual studies. So there was a study that did fish oil versus krill oil. And I got mad because Mercola pulled this out. And I was like, all right, let me see what this guy does. By the way, Mercola will do circular research. I shouldn't talk bad. He's great. Love him. Love everybody. But just so you know, I've tried to fact check and look at research, because what people say and what is true are two different things. So I went to research. I'm like, all right, where is he pointing his research to? Let me see the citation. Well, it was to Natural News. I'm like, Natural News. So I go to Natural News, I read their stuff, and then I look at their citation. It goes back to McCroll's website. So it was a circular research. And I'm like, this is junk. Anyways, so they're all talking about selling krill. And so I went to the literature, and it did say, krill does absorb a modest amount better than fish oil. Not huge, but let's say you absorb 6 of one, you absorb 8 of the other. There. You see the omega-3s go up a little bit more in krill than you would fish oil at the same dosage. Important, because fish oil is so much higher than krill. However, interesting, on the krill study, all the omega-6s went up significantly. They went down on fish oil studies. The arachidonic acid, which is where all of your inflammation, your thromboxanes, leukotrienes, cyclooxygenase, it all comes from your arachidonic acid, which is an omega-6 derivative. All the arachidonic acid went really high in krill. It went down in fish oil.
Not only does it not work, or it's absorbed a tiny bit better, but there's a downside to this. Yeah,
there's definitely a negative. And then in the conclusion of the study, krill absorbs better than fish oil. You have to read, just the conclusion does not necessarily tell you what's in the study. I talked about that study earlier with the doxycycline and lime.
Yeah.
Oh, the conclusion of that study showed gold standard is doxy. You can use daptosome or daptomycin or carvacrol as an adjunct. Side note, if you read the study, Daptosome, daptomycin, and carvacrol all get rid of persister cells. DABCI is the only one that didn't. But that's the gold standard. Feel free to use these other weird ones. And you're like,
Why do you think it's still the standard of care? Do you think, I mean, purely big pharma is a piece of this, but what else is going on? Is there a lag in the research and the medical education? And
well,
what else?
The medical education is one thing because, as you know, you get all this great science, and then you go into pharmaceutical pharmacology the second year, and then you're in rotations and you're following a doctor. That you just get that all just gets mashed down to where you're like, well, this is my protocol. This is the algorithm. This is what I do.
Yeah.
This is the best thing. This is what, and they get you because it's the insurance model and you're working for the hospital. You get to see a patient every 7 minutes. Boom, 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 boom. I see 10 patients a day. I charge for it, but I see 10 patients that I give extraordinary care. You go to the hospital, and by the end of the day, you want to die. I talked to my neighbor who's works for a large just primary care company, and she's like, I drink a pot of coffee and I fall asleep as soon as I get home.
Oh my goodness.
Like, yeah, you have no adrenal response. I'm like, how long? When are you going to retire? She's like, when the kids graduate college. Oh, like 15 years? Are you joking?
The
Like,
patients and the
crazy.
providers are burned out, both.
Yeah.
Both
Yeah.
sides.
Oh, it's horrible. It's killing everyone.
Like the blind leading the blind.
It's
Oh no.
terrible. I went to look at Children's Mercy Hospital here in Kansas City. They're a real foundation hospital. And they wanted me to come speak to their GI docs and their psychiatry department and talk about the gut-brain connection and how what people's gut health does affects their brain. And you all appreciate this, but I had citations on every page. I mean, I'm drawing. I think I'm a pretty good teacher. I'm putting it out there in a way that everyone should be able to very easily understand. They didn't understand just simple words. It was like, oh, you don't know anything functional. You're just specifically algorithm based. And they even said to me, hey, just make sure you don't refer us anybody. We work on salary. And I'm like, oh. And I'm very black and white. I just let that go. My director of operations was like, did you hear what they said? Like, what'd they say? And I'm like, I did hear. I didn't even think about that. That's crazy. Like, they don't want to see you. They don't like you. They want you in and out as soon as possible so they can breathe for 5 seconds. They're in a mill. And when you're seeing 40 people a day, they're just trying to survive. I'd sit down and have fun with my patients. I'm like, we're going to chat. We're going to have fun. They know me. I know them. I wasn't used to this. I didn't used to be a touch person. I don't like people touching me in general. People are giving me hugs all the time now. I'll give me a hug before I go. All right, let's get a hug going. Come on. So it's actually been a relationship. It's been a good evolution of my existence, the hugs that are happening, because I'm getting used to touch.
And Dr. Goodbinder, I know I'm trying to watch the time for us here, but I have to squeeze this topic in kind of before we wrap. So we talked a little bit offline earlier about LDN supplements and kind of like their use case or non-use case. I just want to get your thoughts on what are your thoughts on immune modulating supplements and compounds or anti-inflammatory supplements and compounds? Are we overusing them, underusing them? What's your approach?
Well, I think it's a spectrum. So would I rather have somebody take LDN or take prednisone? Oh, well, let's do the LDN. Can we do LDN and get you off prednisone? Yes. Okay. So when you do prednisone, you're literally shutting down basically the entire immune process, all of it. Not just, hey, I'm going for a biologic. I'm going to knock out interleukin 12. I'm not Humira, or I'm tumor recursive factor alpha with Enbrel, or we're doing, hey, I'm going to knock out all of the cytokines with a JAK2 inhibitor, which is wild. I mean, what a crazy situation. We're just going to knock out your entire ability to see any infection. Congrats.
Crazy.
Yes. And cancer rates spike in those people. But if I can give you some LDN, it is definitely the better bad choice. Would I prefer not to give you any pharmaceutical that's going to inhibit your immune response to an infectious disease? Yes. But if you're in excruciating pain and you're damaging joints that I can't go and fix later because it's a morphological issue, LDN's great.
And what's your take on supplements?
On supplements?
Yeah, just in general.
I mean, I love supplements, but I like them targeted. I have people come in with bags of supplements to me and they're like, this is what I'm taking. And you go, how about we just, and I use this terminology, I'm like, I like to cheat. What's that mean? Well, I like to know what I'm doing before I treat anything. How about we do all the testing? Yes, it's going to be a greater investment. Who cares? In the end, you've already spent what? $50,000 trying to get rid of your RA? How about we just actually know why you have it? And then we treat it and objectively watch it all go away. And then once it's gone, it's gone. You don't need me anymore. You get to go live your life. But I do want you on Omni Support and fish oil every day the rest of your life so that you're taking care of baseline needs.
I like that approach. Targeted, specific, intentional. I love that.
And then the labs don't lie. So either I'm
Mhm.
succeeding or I'm not. So,
Absolutely.
what's really cool? Last thing I'll say, just because I love the testing for it. The neural autoimmune panels, we just had a guy, so he came in about 2.5 months ago. MS, hadn't been on a scooter basically and not walking for about 9 years.
Mhm.
3 weeks after we started, he was able to bend his leg. And then about 2 weeks ago, we got word that he walked up 3 stairs, holding onto the railing, but walked
Wow.
up 3 stairs. We love the neural autoimmune panels because you can actually watch people's attack on their brain go down. So you go, how are you feeling? I don't really feel any better, doc. All right, let's do the test. Oh, you can actually see it's going away. You're still attacking your brain. So of course you don't feel better. However, it's less. Let's keep going. And then it go, and then it's gone. I talked to a woman in Virginia the other day. She has Crohn's and MS, and she was with a walker. Obviously all sorts of digestive stuff. And I saw that all of her attacks on her antitubulins and all of her myelin sheath attacks were gone at 5 months on her neural autoimmune panel, which is what it should be called, by the way. And I said to her, hey, all your MS stuff's gone. You should. And she's like, I know it's gone. I feel great. I can walk. I don't have Crohn's anymore. I'm off all my medications. Like, she's going wild.
Yeah.
I didn't even get to say, like, I expect you to start getting better soon because the autoimmunity is gone. That didn't happen because she would just burst out. I don't have a problem anymore. But yeah, I mean, like, if you test right, we shouldn't be guessing on anything. And you know what? This is a higher end level of care. I'm sorry that it's going to cost you thousands. It's not really a cost. You're investing in yourself. You know
And
what?
it is an
Clear,
investment.
Doctor.
What's that?
Sorry, Melissa. To be clear, Dr. Goodbinder, you're speaking about the neural zoomer.
Yeah, that's why I just said it should be called. Like,
What
I
should
don't
it be
do
called?
anything.
You
Let me
like
call it a neural autoimmune panel.
neural autoimmune. And what about time frame? Because I don't think that providers repeat enough. And really, just for best outcomes, of course, I work for Vibrant, but really, what do you feel is a appropriate interval for repeat testing? Of course, it depends on the individual, but maybe how soon are you running a neural zoomer on, say, that last patient you just spoke of?
So I'll rerun that in 4 to 5 months.
Okay.
Because we have things in the meantime with a very structured process here. So we're drawing traditional medical panels and watching how things change and letting their expectation, hey, you're not going to get rid of all of your autoimmunity in just a month. But we do want to see how your body's going to handle all the treatments we're getting. So after a month of treating you, we're going to retest all the big baseline medical stuff, which is a lot of testing. It's just our baseline. And you go, all right, so your liver's responding well, or it's not. We're having a major die-off. Your liver's not handling it. We need to really fortify your liver and speed that process along. Oh, your kidneys aren't responding really well. We need to thin out all your blood and have you eat a higher fat diet, lower proteins. Like, we can do all those things. Oh, wow, you absorbed your vitamin D really well. We overshot the mark. Let's cut that back. And you can watch that. And then in a couple more months, you're already there. Let's see your autoimmune neurals.
Got it. That's
I
helpful.
love that approach. Yeah. Dr. Goodbinder, thank you so much for all of your insights today. It's blowing my mind how so much intricate information is packed into one person's brain. I feel like we could go on for hours. We have so many other questions. We'd love to have you back, but just thank you for sharing everything. And if anyone tuning in today, if they want to connect with you, maybe they want to reach out as a patient, where can we find you online?
You can find me at drgoodbinder.com. That's drgoodbinder.com.
I love this. I love the sound effects too. And we'll be sure to link this down in the show notes for you guys. So if you want to check out Dr. Goodbinder or even check out his supplements, we'll link this down below. And until next time, wishing us all vibrant health and wellness.
Thank you so much for being here today. Don't forget to leave us a review and subscribe so we can continue to pay it forward together. And remember, the key to longevity is knowledge. Keep learning, growing, and tuning in to the Vibrant Wellness podcast to discover the latest insights and strategies for optimal health. Join us again next week. Just a reminder, this podcast is for educational and informational purposes and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The views expressed by guest and host are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy of Vibrant Wellness. As always, consult your healthcare provider before applying any recommendations that you heard here today.